Rosh Hashanah.
We'll have already
We will
started.
just give a vote on the days that we finish tomorrow morning. That's some other day.
Okay. This is terrible. I'm about to mess up someone's video with my punim. All right. So we're starting at the Mishnah and we'll review. I don't know if David did it or not, but we're going to start at the Mishnah. Misha hayu peirosav bi'ir acheres. What? Well, we're starting on Mem, but we're going to the bottom of the previous page because Rabbi Green always does that. Okay? So, oh, wait, are you there? There ain't nobody there. All right, we won't start. I back off.
You're being beckoned by.
You're in the wrong seat, Sid.
I'm sitting here. I'm very happy with it.
Shinoi makom, shinoi mazel. You're a happy guy. Stay where you belong. Okay, so how do I know when he's on?
You can add, well, either you can wait till 8:30 and start automatically, or ask, say hello.
Hello? Nothing. All right, so I do not have the list of sponsors, so we will just globally thank all of the annual, monthly, weekly, and daily sponsors who sponsor for various reasons, including a recent Misa, a yard site, a friendship, a birthday, whatever the reason for the sponsorship is. We express our heartfelt gratitude to those who put up some money to be sponsors. Okay, and I don't have to list all the dead people.
Just put it on maximum volume.
I'll have to wait 3 more minutes. That's the minakamakom.
Can you give us the baseball scores from last night?
I have no idea.
He only knows the college football.
I have no idea. I will though give you like a spoiler alert. There's going to be a big red herring in today's Gemara, where we think we're talking about one thing, and it turns out that we really weren't. We're talking about something else all along. So they struggle to fit a psak into the Mishnayos we've learned to no avail, and then we're going to say that's because that's not what we're talking about. So that's a spoiler alert that took up 1 minute. So now I'll tell you, since we have 2 minutes ahead, there was a Yid who had yard side and he had to say Kaddish. He was on a business trip to New York. In those days, they didn't have internet. There was a little booklet that printed all the minchas. So he looked up and he saw there was a mincha at 7:12 at Breuer's. So he took a cab to Breuer's and he got there at 7:10. The door was locked, the lights were off. He banged on the door. The shamus came to the door and says, "Yes, why are you here?" He says, "I'm here to daven mincha." Shamus looked at his watch and says, 2 minutes early is also not on time.
That's right.
Okay, 1 minute to go. Hello.
By the way, how do we know that? Because the Rosh Hashanah says Ayeko.
All right. The countdown begins. Now, what happens if he's not here at 8:30?
You start, that's all.
Start anyway.
You got,
That's his apparatus.
that's right.
Hello? It made noise. Hello?
Harvey.
Hello? The phone made a beep.
Okay, it's Sunday, maybe.
All right, we still have 7 seconds.
He comes on late sometimes.
All right, we are at the bottom of the previous page, the Mishnah, Misha Hoyu Peirosav Be'ira Cheres. Somebody has his produce in the next town over. Now it's further than 2,000 amas, but less than 4,000 amas. That's a necessary piece of data. But we'll say he brings his stuff to BRS. And it's there in somebody's house near BRS, and Yontif comes along. So the people over there, they want to help him out, so they make an Eruv. V'yaru b'nei Oisa ha'ir, they make an Erev Tchum in the Aroma parking lot to allow them to walk here. Now, I'm going to use local geographical highlights, but I'm not talking about the actual distances. So disregard the distance of BRS, and Eruv would not help. But let's say it does. So Lehevi Etzlo, they pay Rosav. You want to bring him his stuff. Lo Yovi Lo. They cannot bring it. Why? A person's property has his shvisa. It is beyond 2,000 amas. Therefore, it just has to stay in place. You can only go 4 amas. No matter what you do, you can't get his stuff to him. The im arev who, but if he makes the eruv in the Aroma parking lot, peiros of kemoyhu, then the peiros have the same shvisa he has. So both he and his apples have their center in the Aroma parking lot, and he can go pick up his stuff, or then they can bring his stuff to them. Conversely, you invite the Abramowitzes, the Schwartzes, and the Cohens from BRS to come to your Seder in Century Village. Mi shezimin etzlo orchim, people from out of town are invited to you on Yontif, and they put an Eruv in the Aroma parking lot so they can get here. Yo yolichu biyadam manos. You cannot give them care packages of food.
Yeah.
Hello? Did you have a question? You cannot give them care packages to take home because you own the food. The food has your shvisa, and they can't take it beyond your tchum to take it home to have to eat later. Ella imkain zika lahem minoiseihem me'erev Yom Tov. What you can do is you can transfer ownership of the brisket to them. And they then own the brisket. It's in your house. We had an earlier Mishnah that said that if you leave stuff in someone else's house, it gets your shvisa. And then they can take it home. Now, this is not saying, okay, Schwartz will take home, Abramowitz will take home, and Cohen will take home. You have to actually make a kinyan. You have to have a third party, your wife or somebody else, has to pick up the pot and say, I'm being kinda this cholent, or I'm being kinda this brisket on behalf of Cohen, Schwartz, and Abramowitz. So now it's their property. This is Erev Yontif. So now you can give them care packages to take home. So based on that Mishnah and how we understand that Mishnah, we have an answer to Bob's question on Friday. Bob asked on Friday, what's the difference between a shoel and one of the levels of a shomer? And we said, we'll get to it. Well, we got to it. So we know now that a shoel, if he borrows it before Yontif, he is kind of it only, not to own it, but to the extent that he has hana, it benefits and it becomes his shvisa. Here, where he's a shomer, he does not gain shvisa because he only has very limited responsibility, which we're now going to discuss. Itmar. Hamafkid Peros Eitzel Chaveiro. Reuven gives over his Peros to Shimon, and Shimon is to watch. Shimon, if they're in, not maybe not. They're in Shimon's property. Okay? Rav Omer, Karagle mi shehefkid alai. Rav says the guy's a shomer, he has a responsibility to watch it. That's enough responsibility on the payros that he gains the shvisa. So now it's like similar to a shoel to talk to Bob. But Shmuel Omer Karagle hamafkid, that it's that the real ownership is still in the person who brought him over, and the guy who brought him to, he doesn't have the right to eat them. He doesn't really get enough from them, so they retain in the shvisa of the owner. And of course, depending on the distance between the two, the halacha could be that the property can't be moved at all. Okay. So Lema Rav Shmuel let's say that their opinions here are the same as their opinions elsewhere. Now, over here, we're talking about bringing inanimate objects, fruit, wheat, whatever, to Reuven, to Shimon. In the other place, we're talking about bringing a bull, an animate object, a bulldog, a bull, something that could cause damage. And over there, im hichnis bereshus, if Reuven takes his bull and puts it in Shimon's chatzer and says, hey, Shimon, can I leave my bull here for 15 minutes? I got to run into the drugstore. And Shimon says, yeah, leave your bull here. So Rav holds that Shimon, by letting him leave the bull there, takes on responsibility for the bull, because the bull can't just sit there. The bull can wander around. The bull can knock down walls in Shimon's chutzer. It becomes Shimon's achrayas. He accepted the bull. Rebbe Omer. Rebbe, on the other hand, says, Li'olam einu chayev ad sheyakabel alav bal habayis lishmor. Shimon's saying, all right, you can leave your bull here, is not, according to Rabbi, the equivalent of saying, I'll be responsible for it. Fakir, Shimon says, you can leave your bull here, but if it wrecks my wall, you gotta pay. So, this then is the second case, and we have to compare this case to the fruit case. Omer Rav Huna, Omer Rav, halacha kedivrei chachamim. The halacha is like the first opinion. The Tanakama is the chachamim. So according to Rav, that's exactly what Rav stated, that if I leave my bull in your yard, you are responsible for it. Shmuel Omer halacha karebi, no, unless you say I'll be responsible, I'm still responsible. Okay, Lema Rav da Omer Rabbanan. So now in our fruit case, it looks like a beautiful parallel. Rav agrees with fruit the way the Rabbanan say with bulls. Shmuel da Omer Rebbe, and Shmuel says the bull case and the fruit case are the same, and you have to make a dispositive decision that he's watching it and he's responsible for it. Otherwise, he has no achrayas. So Omalach Rav could say over, Anada Amre Afila the Rebbe. My opinion on over here with the fruit would even accord with Rebbe over there. Why? Ad kan loka Amar Rebbe Hasam Eledibis Tama Lo Kabel Ale Nitirusa. Over there, where it's an animate object, Shmuel says he has to clearly state he's going to be responsible. because the bull could wander off, the bull could do damage. It's not a passive kind of a shmira. You have to get actively involved with the bull. It's no bull that you have to be involved with the bull. Aval hacha, but over here, here it's fruit. What's it going to do? It's going to knock down your wall. So he says, sure, I'll watch your fruit. I'll make sure nobody steals it. The Shemira level is insignificant enough that he automatically accepts responsibility. So it's not so clear that it's a complete parallel. On the other hand, Shmuel would argue, Anada Amre Afilu Rabbanan. When it comes to the apples and oranges, it's to say, the rabbis even agree also. Ad kan lo ka amre rabbanan hasam ela denichale leinish denakum toire birishuse debal hachatzer. Over there, I want to leave my animal. I have to run into the drugstore. So I say to you, look, I'm just leaving my animal here, and then implicitly, but I know you're not going to be responsible for it. I'll only be a few minutes. It won't do anything. And if it does, it's my prize. But over here with the fruit, where it's a tchum issue, not a dine momenos issue, mi nichale de inchi, do I want you, because my fruit is in your courtyard, do I want you to have the degree of responsibility that the shvisa goes by you? I would rather make an eruv and come get my fruit on Yontif. If I have guests coming, I want to make fruit salad for dessert. I need my fruit. So I would not cede the shvisa to you. I would retain it myself. So therefore, Rav and Shmuel, when they're talking about the bull, could have positions that do not reflect on the machlokes on the. So dine momenis is one thing, and shvisa is another thing. Okay. So, but who's right? We have two opinions. So we're going to try and challenge. We're going to challenge Rav. Tanan, we have a Mishnah that we learned in our Mishnah. Im Eirav hu Perusav Kamayu. If the depositor makes an Eirav Tchumen outside his normal Tchum to enable him to go to BRS to pick up his stuff, then the fruit is within the same 2,000 amas he is, and his has the same. His fruit is now in his rishus for in terms of tchumen. But Rav said, if I give it my fruit to Reuven to watch, and he accepts a certain amount of shmira on it, he's a shomer chinam, that he gains the tchum shvisa of that fruit, according to Rav. Ki Erev hu, if I make an Erev to be able to get to Reuven's apartment, my have it. What benefit is it? What's the point? It's beyond my tchum. It can't move. My making an Erev gives me the right to move, but that was beyond the tchum. It could never move. My Erev doesn't do anything vis-a-vis the fruit. So it doesn't gain anything. So how do you hold your position, Rav? The Mishnah explicitly says I can change the case by making an Eruv. So you, Rav, cannot be right. Amar Rav Huna. Rav Huna explains, Amar Be Rav, in Rav's yeshiva, they try to justify Rav's position by saying, Gegon sheyached lo keren zavis. Here's the situation. I say to Reuven, can I leave my stuff in your chatzer over Yontif, but I want to retain my shvisa on it. So Reuven says, yeah, you can have that corner. It's Cain, it's as if Reuven is lending me that corner. And in a sort of a halachic sense, that corner is with quotes around it, mine. So when I put my fruit there, he's not really doing a shmira on it. He's letting me have a piece of his chutzer or a piece of his apartment to put my stuff. So it's my stuff in my place, and it has my shvisa, and I can move it anywhere in my tchum, and making the eruv now helps. And since it has my shvisa, he can even use, if he also made an eruv, he could bring it to me. Okay, so that's how you justify that that Rav can hold that the bikadon is in the shvisa of the watcher, and yet understand that we could set it up where it's in his house, but it doesn't have the same din. That's a little comment. Anybody got a question on that? Okay. Taishma, let's look at the second half, the Seifa of the Mishnah. Misha Zimen Etzlo Orchim, you have guests at your house on Yom Tif. Lo yochilu biyodam manos. You cannot give them doggy bags or care packages to take home if they live beyond if they made a chum to get to you, because their house is more than 2,000 amas away. Ela imkain zika lahem minoseihem b'erev Yom Tov. Unless you transferred ownership of those foodstuffs to them before Yom Tif. Now, if you say that your possessions being guarded by someone else gain his shvisa and are part of his tchum, so what? So I transferred ownership to Marty. Big deal. Marty's chulent is now in my pot, in my house, and I am the guardian of it, so it should have my shvisa, according to Rav. So what does transferring ownership to Marty have to help? Ki zika lehem al yedei acher my hafe. So what the actual case is, that he did a halachic transfer. He called in Zev, and Zev used his walker to get over to Reuven's house, and Reuven said to Zev, pick up the pot of cholent and be kind of it on behalf of Marty. So now the cholent pot is equivalent to the designated corner. What Reuven has done is saying, I'm allowing Marty to have his cholent in my cholent pot. So it's not the same as the depositor. It's the same. It's Rav's loophole to the depositor that if you designate the location in your house for the other guy to put his stuff, you're not accepting shmira on it. Okay? Hachanami. Since he used a third party to do a genuine kinyan and a genuine transfer, so it becomes the same as if he designated a corner of his house. Or a simpler answer, the boy say zika shani. The whole point of going through, making Zev schlep to Reuven's apartment to pick up the pot, was to effect a genuine transfer of ownership. This all happened Erev Yom Tif. And what was the only reason you did that? So Marty could take the cholent home. So you don't have to go through any complicated understandings. That's the whole setup for the whole reason. And therefore the cholent gains Marty's shvisa and is in Marty's tchum as soon as Zev picks up the pot. Okay. Now we're going to have a case that at first seems to be involved with Tchumen. And so and yet it's going to be extremely difficult to fit it into Tchumen. Here's the story. Rav Chana bar Haniloi Tola b'Sayra ba'Arya Didasha. I have to give a backstory. Rav Chana rented a room in a hotel that was 2,999 amas away from his normal residence. And he made an A-roof so that he could go to a Seder at the hotel on on Pesach night. And then he could go home and finish up and eat the second Passover meal in his own apartment. Now, when he gets to where the hotel is, turns out there's a fata there. There's a beef fattener there. And he has this unusual opportunity to buy USDA prime Wagyu beef, which is not available in any of the Boca Raton stores. And he buys himself a gorgeous roast. Okay? And Rav Hana bar Chanilai, Tola Basra, he hangs his meat, Ba'avra Didasha, on literally the door hinge or the door hook of his room. In our nomenclature, he would hang it on the doorknob so that when he goes out, he'll remember I bought this expensive meat and take it home. Okay? But he forgot the halacha. He forgot our Mishnah. So Lakaimi to Rav Huna. So he walks over to Rav Huna, who's also staying in that hotel. Amalei, he says to him, okay, I bought this meat. I hung it on the doorknob in my room. I'm going home tomorrow morning. Can I take the meat with me? Now, it should be pashut. It's in my rishus. It's my meat. I bought it. It's in my rented room. What's the issue? But Rav Huna complicates life. Amalei, atalis zil shakil. If you personally hung it on your doorknob, isn't the hey, take it home, beheta gomer. The innahu talalach lo tishko. But if you gave it to the concierge in the hotel and they put it in your room, you can't take the meat home. So wait a second. The first part I understand based on the Mishnayos we've been learning. But what is the second part? I bought it. I made a kinyan. It's in my room. What's the fact that
they were his agents acting on his behalf?
That's correct. Everything should. Why are the two? Who hung it on the door make a difference? Such a dramatic difference that he can no longer take it home. So the Gemara is going to try and fit it all in. Now, as I told you before, it's not going to work because it's too difficult. Could Rav Huna really have said to him, if you put it in your room, take it home? Could he really do that? Because Rav Huna is a Talmud of Rav. V'omer Rav, I'm sorry. V'ho Rav Huna Talmud de Rav Hava. Rav Huna was a Talmud Muvhak of Rav. V'Rav Omer, Baragli mi shehifkido etzlo. After all, I don't own the hotel. Chana is putting the meat in the hotel, in the room. And he doesn't own the room. He's just got it for the night. So is this, if you want to say this meat is now being protected by the hotel, it's like a depositee. And according to Rav, the depositee has the shvisa. He can't take the meat home. Okay? But that's what Rav says. Karagle misha hefkido etzlai. He can't take the meat home. It's like the hotels. Sha'ani of the Dasha. So Rav Huna would say, no. By him hanging it on the door, at the door handle becomes like his corner. He sort of rented the whole room. Doesn't have to be on the door. What could be a more clear case of him having a corner? He paid for the corner. It's mamish his corner. He should be able to take the meat home. The kami sheyachid lo keren zavis tummy. It's just the same. It's better than the case of him designating a corner for me. Aye, but then why can't he take it home if the concierge puts it in the room? Amalei Rav Hillel the Rav Ashi. Rav Hillel says to Rav Ashi, the inhu talule lo shakil. If the concierge puts it in the room, he can't take it home. Why not? But didn't Shmuel say, Shmuel sure shall petam, harehu karagli koladam? Anybody who buys meat unobtainable elsewhere, it automatically gains his own shvisa, and he made an eruv to be able to go home. So the second half is inexplicable. Amalei Ravina Rav Ashi. So Ravina explains it like this. If the concierge hangs it there, he won't be able to take it home, according to Rav Huna. That's a question. Ha'amar Rabba bar Rav Huna, Amar Rebbe Yochanan, halacha Reb Daisa. The halacha we learned this a couple days ago. The halacha follows Reb Daisa, that your property, unless the circumstances differ to transfer the shvisa, remains your property, and you can take it wherever you can go. So how can Rav Huna say he can't take it home? So here comes the resolution of the red herring. Okay, Amalei Rav Ashi Rav Kahana. Rav Ashi explains like this: Inahu talilei lo shakil. If he hangs it there, this is just a little wrapping it up. If the host hangs it, so what? V'hatanan habehema v'akelim karagli abaylim. It doesn't matter who put it in the room. It belongs to the guy who paid for it. Doesn't matter animate, inanimate. It belongs to the guy who paid for it. So here's the thing. Rav Chana bar Chanilai was a big Talmud Chacham. And the reason he asked the concierge to put the meat in his room was because he was sitting in the room the hotel set up as a base medrash, and he was sitting and learning. So when he handed the meat over to the goy who runs the hotel, the goy had the meat in his temporary possession. He transported the meat to the room. He put it in the room. It was basar hanasala min ha'ayin. It was meat, kosher meat, that was not under the supervision at all times of a Jew. And the meat was no longer kosher. So it is not a tchum issue. It's a kashrus issue. Yeah.
Oh, that's the thing. So if he's buying this meat and he's afraid that the guy is going to deliver it there, why didn't they double wrap it?
So it has to have a siman.
The siman is the.
No, wait a second. It has to have a siman, and it has to have Jewish supervision. Unless there is, like a plumber and you lock it, just wrapping it is not enough. It has to be mamish, sealed in a way that the goy couldn't possibly open it. So we'll see inside. Ella Shani Rav Chana bar Chanilai. The Gavra Rabbahu, he's a big Talmud Chacham, V'torid v'shmaite, and he is devoting all of his koyach to his learning. He's not keeping an eye on the meat. Okay? V'hachika amarle. And here is what the fill in the blanks Rav Huna said to him. At talit, if you're the guy that hung the meat, islacha simona. If you knew enough not to let the meat out of your hands and not to let the goy get his hands on your meat, you also knew to put a simon on the meat, that nobody could tamper with the meat. And the kavai the gavei the lo masrach taitach mineh. You did not take your attention away from it. You kept your eye on it. You were at least yotzev nichnas. You did not neglect your shmira on the meat. Zil shakil. So you can take it home to Heter Gomer. It's in your shvisa. You can take it anywhere your Eruv allows you to take it. And it's 100% kosher. It's had Jewish eyes on it the whole time. The inhu talulach. But if your host brought the meat in your room, literally hung it on the hook, misrach taitach, you lost your tension on it. You no longer had a shmira on it, below shakul, and you can't take it home because it's not kosher. It's not a shaila in tchumen. It's a shaila in kashrus. And that's why they had difficulty justifying it, because you can't compare apples and oranges. All right, next Mishnah. We started out the Beya with discussions of muktzah issues. We transited to discussions of tchum issues, basically. And now we're wrapping up by coming back to muktzah issues. Ein mashkin v'shochtin es ha-midbarios. If I own a herd of animals, I cannot give water and shech an animal I own that's muktzah. It's a midbarios. It's called a grazing animal out in the field somewhere. Avo mashkin v'shoichtin es habayosas. But I can water and shech a behemoth that's in my corral or in my barn. It's like the chickens in the chicken coop we had. If you can designate it verbally, I'm going to take an animal from the barn and I'm going to shecht it. We're going to have lamb chops on Yom Tif. Okay, so now we've set up two statements. We have to tell you what the words mean. Elohen bayasos, the Mishnah says this is what are considered bayasos, halanos be'ir, animals that are in town. In other words, they're in your corral, they're in your barn, that you keep them close at hand, they're not beyond your tchum, and you know you can designate one of them. Midbarios, what are midbarios animals? Halanos be'afar, animals that don't come home at night, they stay and they sleep in the field. Okay, so the first question the Mishnah is good, the Gemara is going to deal with. If this is a muktzah question, what's the watering got to do with anything? If the animals are in my barn, we already learned I'm allowed to feed and water them. If the animals are out in the field, they're muktzah, we already learned I can't water them. Why does the Mishnah stick in water? I understand it wants to teach me about shechting. That's new. But why is it stick in watering? We've learned this more than once before. Why does the Mishnah say water as well as slaughter? The whole thing is slaughter. What's water got to do with it? Okay, the Mishnah wants, this is a technique the Mishnah often uses. Along the way, the Mishnah wants to teach me something what's called agavurcha along the way. Okay? The lashke inish behemto v'hade lishchay. That normal practice is to first fill the animal up with water, give him as much as he wants to drink prior to shechting him. Why? Mishum sircha demashka, because it softens up his skin at the boundary between the hide and the flesh. If the animal is got lots of liquid, it will be easier later to skin the hide. So it's just a practical matter. It's not has nothing to do with sarbal chai. It has to do with sarbal shochet. That makes the shochet's job easier to take the skin off. Skin is valuable; it becomes leather shoes. So that's the deal. Okay. Now we're going to bring a brisa that goes into more detail on the two categories of animals. Tana Rabbanan, we have a brisa. Elohin midbarios. These are animals that are considered out in the home on the range. Okay, the Elohin bayasais, and these are the animals that are considered homebound and thus muchan l'shchita. Midbarios kol shiyotzes bepesach v'ra'os bi'afar. They're animals that the cowboys and the shepherds take out in the springtime, and they pasture all spring and all summer. And the nichnosais berivia d'rishayna, and they come home circa Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan, when the rainy season began. And it's not, and you want to get the animals in so that they don't drown in puddles and so on and so forth. So it's a broader definition than the nightly trip home that the Mishnah brought. The Elohen Baisos, these are animals that are considered homebound and therefore muchen l'shchita. Animals that on a daily basis are brought not that far, but chutz l'tchum, v'lanos b'tachat tchum, and then the cowboys or the shepherds bring them back, not necessarily all the way to the barn, but they bring them within the owner's tchum. And by putting it within the owner's tchum, that's the indicator that the owner might want to shecht one, because if it was beyond his tchum, shecht away, he can't bring it home. So by bringing it close enough that the owner can go fetch it, that's considered a bayasais and is muchen l'shchita. Rabbi Omer elu v'elu bayasais hey. Even the ones that come home for the winter are considered bayasos. Elu v'elu hen midbarios. And what do we call animals that are muktzah? Kol shiyotzos l'rayos be'efer. Animals that go out into the range and graze, and when they use up that grass, they move on and do more grass, and they stay out for months, for years even. Kol shiyotzei ra'os be'afar v'ein nichnasan liyishuv, but they are never brought back. Lo b'biyamas hachama v'lo b'biyamas hageshamim. They're never brought home. Okay? And until, of course, the guy wants to take them to the fetter or to the rower who in town who sells them. Okay? And we will stop. We will stop there and finish up this afternoon at the Siyum. Tomorrow afternoon at the Siyum. Tomorrow you should bring your Gemara Rosh Hashanah Okay, and either Ruvain will take the job of giving the shear tomorrow,
Regular time.
or for sure Ruvain will do it, unless Kenny gets in this evening and is willing to come in the morning. And then the Siyum is 4:00 tomorrow. If you haven't registered, please do so, and have a lovely day. And goodbye.
There's here in the morning.
Tomorrow, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Ruvain will give this share tomorrow, or if he doesn't, I will. And then Ruvain and I will alternate, or at least share the responsibility if Kenny doesn't get back. And we're signing off, I guess. Bye-bye.
Light it up.
Yes, you can. Very nice.
Who's was? Give me a hand.
I can't.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow we need both cars?
No, you don't need
No,
to. There's
no.
gonna be a.
No, we're gonna